Hi, my name is John, and welcome to another installment of Statistics Quest. I'm going to talk today about the dynamics involved in the Raiders-Chargers regular season game, where there was speculation that the Raiders, in particular at the end of the game, might play for a tie. So some key parts that I'm going to look at is, again, the Raiders, should they have played to a tie at the end, kicking a field goal at the end, and then some basic probabilities under two scenarios. One is playing for a tie, and two is playing for a win, as they did. And as we'll see in a second, we're going to focus on the main factor being avoiding the Chiefs. Okay, so under number one, the thought processes of the coaches. Well, Brandon Staley, the Chargers coach, took a lot of flack for calling a timeout towards the end of the game because he didn't like the defense he had on the field. The Raiders had lined up for a pass, and having called a timeout, Derek Carr, the Raiders quarterback, commented that had he not called a timeout, the Raiders would have settled for a tie. Who knows if that's true? Again, he was basically vilified by the press for calling a timeout, and in my opinion, for a couple reasons, he should have called a timeout. One is, during the game, you don't know the mind of the coaches, of the other coach. The other big thing is that nobody seemed to talk about is the two scenarios where the path would differ for the Raiders as far as going throughout the AFC, whether they won or tied. Okay, we have some assumptions. The Chiefs have an 85% chance to beat the Steelers. They're saying the Raiders have a 30% chance to beat the Bengals. They have a 20% chance to beat the Chiefs. They have a 30% chance to beat anyone else. Basically, this is saying the Raiders have a 30% chance to beat anybody except the Chiefs, which is 20%. You may differ with that. The Titans had the number one seed, and some people might say, well, how can you say that they have a 30% chance of beating the Titans? The key thing, though, is, as we'll see in a second, avoiding the Chiefs. To really do this correctly is to run a simulation, which you will see some sites do. For example, Football Outsiders, they run simulations to get, they may do 10,000 simulations to determine the probability that each team has of winning the Super Bowl, or maybe of going to the Super Bowl. Pro Football Focus does the same thing. Other sites do the same thing, okay? I'm just going to focus here shortly on a few of the many parlays that can happen, okay? But hopefully the probabilities that I focus on give you a flavor for what the simulations would generally look like, okay? That's my goal here. So again, these numbers are ballparks. To do this, to do it justice, you really have to do a simulation. That's beyond the scope of the purpose of this, but I do want to show you a basic probability, which hopefully brings home how those simulations should play out given these two scenarios. I'm going to walk over here to where I do some number crunching. Okay, here are the 7 seeds in order. Titans number 1, Steelers are number 7. Okay, we're going to look at two scenarios. One scenario is that the Raiders win, meaning that they beat the Chargers. Of course, that's what they did, right? We're also going to look in each scenario of the probability of going to the Super Bowl. It really doesn't matter that we have the probability of winning the Super Bowl, because if they go to the Super Bowl, they're going to face the same team, whether or not they had played for a win or whether they played for a tie. So for our purposes, if we can compare the probability under scenario 1 to scenario 2, or at least ballpark it, we should be able to hopefully tease out whether or not the Raiders should have played for a win. Okay, so backing up a second, a talking point among many people, including some of my friends, are, well, maybe the Raiders should have played for a tie because, as it was, they kicked a field goal. That field goal could have been blocked, returned for a touchdown, and the Chargers could have knocked them out of the playoffs. That's true. However, and along those lines, again, some of the talking heads will say, well, okay, yeah, they avoided the Chiefs in the first round, but eventually they're going to have to play the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. Not so fast. They may not have to play the Chiefs because the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs might be a favorite in every game until such time, the Chiefs might lose and the Raiders might never play them. That's the key to why, we'll see here in a second, the Raiders had every reason to play for a win. And as we'll also see, I don't think the decision is really close. Now, how many people were doing, particularly the coaches or people involved with the team were doing these numbers crunching ahead of time? Probably not many. Some of them might have been going by gut feel, like, oh, okay, I'd rather get the Bengals in the first round as opposed to the Chiefs, but these numbers will bear that out. Okay. So how can they avoid the Chiefs? Well, one way to avoid the Chiefs is if the Chiefs lose to the Steelers. That's a long shot, but they could lose to the Steelers. I have it at 15% because we had earlier said that the Chiefs have about an 85% chance of beating the Steelers. Okay. There are other ways, right? So another way to avoid them is if the Chiefs win and the Bills win and then the Bills beat the Chiefs, whereby the Raiders, pending that they continue to win, would end up playing the Bills in the championship game. But so there are many, many parlays. I'm just going to focus on one of them. We're going to keep it simple, and that is that the Steelers might beat the Chiefs, right? Everyone should agree with that. And also, the fact is, it's clear then that if they do beat the Chiefs and the Raiders keep winning, there's no way that the Raiders can play the Chiefs, as opposed to scenario 2, which we'll get to in a second, where the Raiders were guaranteed to play the Chiefs had they tied because we knew what the seeding would look like. Okay. So we said that there's an 85% chance that the Chiefs beat the Steelers. So what's the probability that the Raiders go to the Super Bowl pending that the Chiefs beat the Steelers? Well, for many events to happen, there's a basic rule in probability that each of the things have to happen, and you multiply each of the corresponding probabilities. Well, so we have 85% that the Chiefs beat the Steelers. We have 30% that the Raiders beat the Bengals. We have a 20% chance somewhere along the line, these numbers don't have to be in order, but the 20% chance that the Raiders beat the Chiefs, we established that earlier, and a 30% chance that the Raiders beat whoever else they're playing in the many parlays of possibilities. That's about a 1.53% chance. There's a 15% chance, however, that they avoid the Chiefs completely. And that's the key to really all of this, because notice 15% of the time, instead of a 0.2 here, which is what they have of beating the Chiefs, there are 3.3s. Okay? So this part is greater than this part, and in essence, in words, we can say that it's better to avoid the Chiefs because it's better for whatever other game they're playing other than the Chiefs. They have a 30% chance of winning instead of a 20% chance of winning. By the way, for the record, some of you may be thinking, well, wait a second, you excluded the Titans. What if they only have a 20% chance of beating the Titans? My numbers, while a little bit different, would still directionally hold. And the reason is, even if it's a 20% chance of beating the Titans, the fact is, if there are the Titans and the Chiefs to worry about compared to only the Titans to worry about, it's still better to only worry about the Titans. So it still behooves the Raiders to avoid the Chiefs if possible. Okay, getting back to the numbers. This is about a 0.41% chance. If we add them up, there's a 1.94% chance. And again, I broke this down to be real simple, where the Chiefs just lose to the Steelers. It's pretty close to a 2% chance. Okay, I didn't cover all of the scenarios. In reality, I suspect this number is a little bit higher. Maybe it's 2.3%. I don't know, because I didn't cover the numbers. My goal is to compare this number to scenario 2. What is scenario 2? That's where the Raiders tie. That's where we know the Raiders are going to play the Chiefs. This 0.2 is going to show up no matter what. The other 0.3s occur. So basically, here's what it comes down to. Real simple. If we know that the Raiders are going to play the Chiefs, this 0.2 is going to happen. It's going to be a part of it. Notice we get just 1.8%. If we don't know they're playing the Chiefs for sure, we have some percent of the time, we don't know what it is, but some percent of the time, we don't have that 0.2. That's why this 1.94%, a little bit higher than 1.8%. Actually, it's not even just a little bit higher. 1.94% is pretty close to 10% higher than 1.8%. And if I had to take an educated guess without doing the simulations, but again, Football Outsiders, maybe they've already done this, I'm going to guess it increased their chance of going to the Super Bowl and hence winning the Super Bowl by about 10%. That's a lot. And in fact, let's go back to, should they have kicked a field goal at the end? Well, I'm not sure what the probability is of having a kick returned for a touchdown. I suspect it's no better than 1 in 100. I'd be surprised if it's even that. But even if it's, say, 1 in 20, a 5% chance of happening, the Raiders still should have played for the win to potentially avoid the Chiefs. Now, I want to finish this with, there are some other caveats, you might say, right? For example, there's just making the playoffs, right? We get into something called a utility function. A utility function basically means, what is something worth to one person, right? So somebody might contend, maybe even the owner of the team might say, you know what, I honestly don't even care what the probability is. I just want to get to the playoffs, okay? And if that's their case, then maybe they should kick a field goal at the end if their goal is just to get to the playoffs. But for most people, right, you want that championship flag, okay? And the probability of getting that championship flag, that's what counts. And I'm going to take this compared to this, or at least these ballpark numbers, any day of the week. Again, to finish, these numbers are not exact, but if I had to take my best guess, again, the Raiders would, again, maybe this should be 2.4%. If we look at all possibilities, maybe 2.2 or whatever. Whatever this is, this number is going to be in the ballpark of 10% lower, I suspect. And therefore, to me, it's clear the Raiders should have played for a win as they did. And either way, Brandon Staley had every right to call a timeout. Well, I hope you like this installment. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you next time on Statistics Quest. Thank you for listening.